anyone want to make a guess on what movie this is, it'd be really cool. But this is me, Brian, from Transparency and Merit, and Joey should be here at any second to, I guess, be around. He came and he went. But folks, this is me, and I was waiting, and sometimes when you get technical difficulties, those things will happen, and I will repeat myself. Hopefully, Joe is listening to the show as I am speaking, and if he's not, that is okay because I usually will plan for myself, but I think I will start having guests on my show, mainly to talk about cultural issues and movies, the fake, the real, and the stupid. And movies are meant to be fake, they're meant to be not real. And some movies are classics and great, and some are just a stupid, lousy waste of time. And yeah, I mean, when movies first started, they were basically shorts. They were Nickelodeons, and I believe the first American film that had a beginning, middle, and end was the movie called The Great Train Robbery that started in, I believe, 1909, maybe 1910. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And I believe, film studios actually started as film. I got to turn this off. Man, it's driving me nuts. Sorry about that, folks. I'm going to just cut out the Discord real quick. Just quit it. But some film studios first started as film theaters. Warner Brothers actually started as a film theater, and it was basically an abandoned shoe store with folding chairs and a small screen. And the reason they started making film is because people did not want to. Film was rather precious and expensive, and they didn't want to give it up, so they started to make their own product. That's how it started. And I was, the thing of it is, I was all ready for a conversation with somebody, and that now didn't happen. I think that Joey is rebooting. I'm just going to text him real quick. And these are the things that happen sometimes when you do have a live program. And I think perhaps we'll do something a little bit different and not have live because I think it's detrimental. And, it happens. And I'm just asking real quick, where did he go? And then we'll go kind of like movies. Sometimes movies will take you in a direction, and then they'll take you in a completely different direction that kind of throws you off key. But again, cinema from its beginning has not been real. And just like novels and plays, they try to basically produce the best out of us in the human condition, and they don't necessarily show all of the warts and all of the thorns. They want to still make people out to be sometimes better than the average man or woman, and we are complex creatures. We're complex human beings. And for most of our cinematic history, for the most part, it didn't do that. And it wasn't really until the late 1960s, at least with regards to American films, where they started to show human beings with realistic flaws and show the really tragic side of life. And I don't feel that they do that as much anymore. And I feel right now there's a lot of propaganda out there, are things that show things to a leftist sort of propaganda, as before they showed things to I guess, to a more conservative right side propaganda. And now it's really kind of left. And it's unfortunate because I felt films of the 70s tried to get people's perspective, and it tried to show the human side of people. And you were right, Mandy. Gone with the Wind was fake, although it was. If you look at it as a film about a narcissistic character, and it's still an entertaining film to a lot of people, but it's right now in this political climate, it's just really, it's really kind of it's kind of taboo. Passion of the Christ was also, I guess you could call that a fake film. I mean, but for Christians, the film was extremely moving. And even for non-Christians, it was also very moving. And who is this person? Jeez. I had to block a person who was basically, for whatever reason, I got an XX porn star on my thing. So Mandy was asking what was that, and that was actually some form of porn star that showed up on my site. And yeah, I blocked it. I mean, I like to have fun with people, but I don't necessarily, uh, you know, like that kind of fun. Yes, porn is very fake. Porn is for one purpose, and it is probably rather fake. I mean, there is not a lot of genuine adult stuff. And Chinatown is a great film, and Chinatown is actually one of my favorite films is Chinatown, and it really, I'm surprised Mandy has seen that, because Mandy, when I talk to her about movies, she doesn't necessarily has necessarily seen the same films I have, but Chinatown is a classic. Another classic film that I've been really into has been the movie Hombre with Clint Eastwood. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And by the way, the book One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, is quite a bit different than the movie. From my understanding, I think that the movie or the book tells uh, the story from the Indians' point of view, from my understanding. And I was kind of inspired from this topic. I was recently listening to the book First Blood, which is basically, and Mandy, you're invited on the show if you want to come on. But I was inspired by the book, as I said before, First Blood, which was, um, the first of the Rambo series. And Mandy does say, yeah, it focused on the idea of brotherhood and more from the chief's perspective. Yes, it did. But the book First Blood focuses on both. It does really tell the story from both I believe it's the sheriff's point of view and Rambo's point of view, and both men are veterans. Um, and I forget the sheriff's name, but the sheriff is a veteran of the Korean War, and Rambo is a veteran of the Vietnam War, and uh, Korea was considered a war fought by what was considered the silent generation, actually my father's generation. And we have got Mandy here. Mandy, how are you doing?
Hello. Yes, I'm doing great. You started talking about the movie aspect of things, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is one of my favorite movies of all time. And that movie, if anything, I would say is the only movie that slightly hints at a great deal of truth, because the reason why its perspective was taken away from the chiefs, from as the book originally was, it focused more on the brotherhood of the men who were in this insane asylum together to work together to acknowledge that they weren't insane, that society and all of the world around them were telling them they were insane because they were acknowledging the truth of things, that the government is controlling them. And that was the perspective it came from, and that was the whole focus of what that movie was to represent, and that's why it was different than the book. And that's why whenever you say it's fake, I'm like, wait a second. That's probably one of the movies that probably tells more truth than anything, but a lot of people don't see it from that perspective.
Well,
There's a lot of movies that do that, and I can go through the list, but have you ever seen Born Identity?
Yes, I have.
Born Identity is a great, like, kind of, and just an adaptation of how things work. We know, like, the Jim Carrey movie. Jim Carrey's made several movies that are just incredibly on point and tell so many truths. They say lie in television, truth in movies. What happened to Brian? What did you do to Brian?
I had to do some truth and take a bit of a restroom break.
I did not need to know that.
Yes, well, but it was truth.
Dirty Harry Wiper.
Yeah, that's correct. I think to a degree, most films are not necessarily telling whole truths, and they kind of skip over things. And movies that are made into books, I think that they add a different perspective. And books that are written at a certain time, as I said before, First Blood was written in 1972, and the movie was made in 1982, and there was a whole different perspective of Vietnam veterans from that to 1972, and that was added into the film. There are elements that were added into the film that were not added into the book, and to me, the book is far more authentic to its time than the movie. The Vietnam veteran has taken on kind of a mythical kind of a character. I could be wrong on this, but that's the way I feel to a degree. And sometimes films that are written, like for example, the book Huck Finn.
Yeah.
You know,
What's
they
that?
don't do the book. Go ahead, Joe. You were going to say something. Joey?
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, with Dirty Harry, and I was trying to figure out what there must be a theme for Dirty Harry that had to do with gold in the movie, and I couldn't remember. But then I remembered the Golden Gate Bridge is actually a big part of that movie. So, and that has something to do with being written in 1972, the year we went off the gold standard for money, and so there was a lot of crime, really good crime movies that were written or scripts that were written, and films were adapted into books were adapted into film later on. But the themes exist from that period of time.
Well, it was actually, from my understanding, was after the film Bullet that San Francisco became a really hot spot to shoot movies in, and the John Milius said that the detective in Dirty Harry, the cop, was based on a cop in Long Beach, who basically sometimes would. When he wouldn't arrest the person, he would basically be judge, jury, and executioner.
By the way, I met this woman Tiffany who's going to call in at some point. Maybe not tonight, but she's going to call into our show, and so just expect a call from Tiffany at some point. She seems to know something or two about movies.
Well, if it's the woman I had to block earlier, I'm hoping it wasn't her, because she wanted to send me some pictures. I think Mandy saw who she was, but
good Lord.
Yeah. But yeah, so books are often much different than the film, and the books a lot of times are more honest than the movie. As I said before, the book Huckleberry Finn, they've never done. There are certain things that they keep out of the film that they have in the book. And Mandy was mentioning Gone with the Wind. I actually read the original 1936 version of the script, and it would be far too inflammatory, even in 1939 standards, to do. It was lots of racial epithets were flown in that movie. Go ahead, Joey.
There's another Texan who loves that movie, Gone with the Wind. It's Debbie. We sent her a Gone with the Wind clock once. I think she threw it away, though.
I think she put a bullet through it. But I mean, that would be so. If we could, you know what, Joey, if we could get a film of her blasting that Gone with the Wind clock, that would be so. Wouldn't that be classic? Come on.
Yeah, like what's his name with the watermelons?
Yeah, if we could just, that Gone with the Wind clock, if we could just get her, just with her 45, just blowing that thing away, I think that would be just amazing.
That's how they do and out there in Dallas with all those freaky women. Is that the only movie you're going to talk about? Dirty Harry?
No, Mandy had talked about Chinatown, and now Chinatown wasn't a book. And Chinatown.
What's she know about Chinatown?
What do you know? Forget it, Joe. It's Chinatown. She said it was a great movie, and I have to agree with her. And I did say that the 70s was a time when films really became kind of true to themselves. Actually, the late 60s and 70s are when films had a far more realistic quality to them, and they touched a nerve, and they became, to a degree, cathartic. And there are films that do this today, just not as much. There are films like Happiness. Now, you did not like Requiem for a Dream.
No, I didn't say that. I thought it was way overrated. It was one of my favorite movies, but a lot of people loved it.
Mandy, have you seen Requiem for a Dream?
I have. And I believe that a lot of people that loved it are usually people that have smoked at least 4 or 5 bowls or took shrooms. I know many people who they talked about how great that movie was. And whenever I first watched it, I didn't get it either. And but yeah, it's one of those films that, but I mean, there is a scene in the movie that does make a great deal of sense when you're sober, and if you're a little like, under the influence of something. And it's a scene where she's watching the woman in the older woman in the film. She's watching a TV show, right? And she's so like engaged with it and everything. She's so obsessed with watching the same TV show that she sees herself in the TV show, and then she gets ridiculed like in the TV show. And that's how I think that reflects a lot of how people are in society today, where they watch these TV shows of like, the Kardashians and all these rich people. And so they try to emulate that as well by showing them their lives online as, oh, this is, my yacht, and this is, the $3,000 meal I've had, and blah blah blah. Like, these are my, my Yeezy shoes and stuff. But in reality, they're sitting on their couch on the on a laptop or on their phone, just texting these things to make somebody believe that that is what they're doing, because that's kind of how crazy that woman got, because she was that like invested with watching this show that she believed that that was her life too. And that was probably the only part of the movie that I could say that was like, oh, I get it. I get that. It reminded me a lot of, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Donnie Darko, but I kind of talk about that movie a lot in reference of the portal that's on in front of, there's a scene where it shows a portal. It's like a little water portal. And it really is just to represent that everything is already predetermined. You're already destined to get up from the couch and go to the fridge and get a drink. That isn't because you're actually thirsty or you want something to eat,
I think that movie, Donnie Darko, is the Citizen Kane for millennials. It's like a really interesting story. And I think a lot of people from that are a little younger or a lot younger than me, but not quite babies. I think they all kind of grew up with that movie. A lot of people cite that movie. I really liked what was that movie in the last few years? The Spielberg movie. It was incredible. Ready Player One, which is an adaptation of a book. And Ready Player One is a real interesting story about where we're going. I with crypto and all these other kind of changes that are about to sweep us over. But that movie, I think, is underrated in its its relevance. I think it's a good movie for sure. Brian, did you ever, or Mandy, did you see Ready Player One?
No, I've heard of it though, but I've never seen it.
It's because I told you to watch it.
Yeah,
I know. I don't take your advice, clearly.
Controlling government.
You want to know something that's really cool, though, that I'm surprised Brian hasn't really touched on? Is one of the most classic movies of all time, The Wizard of Oz. That movie was 10 years after the stock market crash, right? And it was to represent the idea of going from an old school way of how things used to be, and then having this crash happen, which was the tornado scene. It's a crash. And then opening up and realizing that, holy shit, like the rest of the world is full of color and all that kind of stuff. And the journey that people have to go through to rebuild what they all lost. And the whole like dying witch scene is to represent all the people that took like shotguns to their heads when the stock market crashed in 1929. So that's why it was written right after the whole the the crash and stuff like that. I remember reading that, like the premise of the idea or the whatever the concept of the whole story was written, and then it was, of course, like took years and years to finally like develop to get to that point. And everyone usually references how whenever you hit like a hard spot either in life or like how it is with like, just I mean how it was with even the pandemic and stuff, it's very Wizard of Oz like how it kind of follows that whole thing where it's like you have this crash and then it's like you have to learn a new way of life, because that's how it was with Dorothy. She had to learn a new way of life, and the new way of life, in quotations here, is seeing things in color and seeing them for what they are and everything. And that's why every character in there is actually an original character from the black and white portion, or the black and white part of the film. And we don't recognize them or anything like that because we see them differently. I mean, that was the whole concept, was to see things differently, not because you were forced to, but because it was different, and that's kind of the relation that they wanted to do with the whole stock market crash, because it was 10 years after all of that happened. And you still had people trying to live the old way. And it's like, no, we're going to a new direction.
Let me just go on to the Wizard of Oz. Now, the Wizard of Oz was actually written in the first one was actually written in 1900, and the book is far more harsher than the film. The film does not go into the brutal harshness of the books.
Yeah, no, I should have clarified that. It's not the book. I'm not talking about like I'm not talking about the concept of the book. It was of the movie. The idea of having like doing the movie with starting it black and white and then making it color and all of that. The idea of that, the reason why they did that was to represent that, hey, it's been 10 years and you still have a majority of people thinking the old way and living the old way. And we need to move to something and move forward to something that's different and better. And even though it was scary and something new, it was the new way forward. And it's a movie that a lot of people will reference, whenever we're finally moving to something new. Like, I actually read it on Twitter not long ago where someone had mentioned how it's like follow the yellow brick road of moving from, how it is with all these banks and money to crypto, and how eventually one day that is what money will be.
Now, I wanted to mention that. Now, have you ever heard of the term, like, Mandy, as far as flying monkeys are concerned with regards to narcissists and their enablers?
Yes, I've heard that.
Okay. Now, we do have God here. He has left the land of his birth to another land, but he is here. God, have you been listening to this show, and do you have any comment or film that you would like to bring up?
Your sound sucks.
I blame the Jew, JP.
Which one? There's two of us.
I'm hearing a very delayed echo. You're so fucked up.
Jeez Louise.
We just got taken off some streaming system in China because of you. Thanks.
Yeah. There's someone who is a crypto woman who says we shouldn't swear. But so my sound is horrible, and God has now left the building, which I don't know why. I think it's
he's scared. Not to mention, let's just real quick recapping on all of that is the Wizard of Oz, and aren't we kind of going through the same thing right now with, you go through all the she falls asleep, right, and after crossing the opium gardens, and she goes into a slumber, and then it snows, so I guess the cocaine woke her up. But then at the end, after going through all of these trials and tribulations, what happens? But Dr. Fauci gets revealed behind the curtain. Amazing relevance in today's world. Go ahead, Brian.
Dr. Fauci should be tried and then tortured on
Go
television.
away.
All right, so God is back. God is back. He thinks that
God would like to rip Dr. Fauci's limbs from him one by one.
The Oh God Part 2.
Yes. I think the man needs to be tried first. And
Yeah, I just said that. Didn't I say that? Don't you listen to God when he speaks? Apparently
but
not.
you said not only should he be tried, but he should be already be punished. Shouldn't he be
He should
tried?
be tried and executed. Do you listen? Do you have
I
a comprehension problem?
disavow. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Doctor.
you disavow. What a pussy you are. Do you listen?
I disavow. I listened, and that's why I disavowed.
Oh, is that right? Oh, well, that's very nice. Why the little lilt in your voice? Woo-hoo-hoo.
I heard that there was I heard there was some marijuana floating around in Thailand. Have you found
There's a
any?
lot of marijuana floating around in Thailand. A lot more floating around in Thailand than you know. This will be a brief appearance by God because God has a Filipina coming over and she wants to fuck.
What's his name?
What's her name? Her name is Russ.
I knew it.
Yes. Perhaps one day you'll get a tryst with what the heck's his name again, or her name?
I haven't betted a Filipina. This will be a first.
Kurtlina or Kurtina, perhaps.
This will be a first.
How is that right? You said you've had several Filipinas. I thought maybe not.
No, I've never had a Filipina.
Howard, do you have a favorite film or a film that
I've never had a Vietnamese woman, and not a Malaysian either. I can
Films, God,
work up to that.
films.
We're talking about movies, Howard. Or God.
Yes, Debbie Does Dallas.
Break.
Why is Mandy so quiet when I'm on? Is there a reason for that?
No, I'm listening. Is that wrong? Thank
I
you.
don't know.
He's used to
I'll rule on that later.
So
He's
God,
talking about Debbie Does Dallas. So if that's the case, then have you ever seen the porno Goddaughter?
No,
Oh, you got to see The Goddaughter.
Yeah, you got to see that.
I don't think so.
It's a porn version of The Godfather. It's an ad.
I'm omnipotent. I've seen it already, even if I haven't.
No, you've never seen this.
Well, how do you know?
It's just interesting.
Why would I watch a porn where I can have it in real life?
Well, it's a spoofy kind of porn. It's not like a.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
It's an older movie, 1972-ish, I think. Anyways,
How lovely, that's
Brian,
great.
Where next? What movie is in your coaster?
Charlie Varick.
is that a movie, Howard?
You don't know it. You're an idiot.
I'm an idiot.
The Prisoner of Second Avenue. That has a bit of a sentimental value here, doesn't it, JP?
If you can't say it backwards, it doesn't matter.
Who gives a fuck about saying things backwards? What am I, the devil? I'm God.
Could be either one.
I mean, it's to be determined. Okay.
Now, I was going to go further on with the Gone with the Wind.
Did you cover One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest already? Oh, you're gonna go over Godfather. Okay, yeah, that's fine too. Oh God, Part 3.
Well, now
I thought he was going to finish out Gone with the Wind.
Well, okay.
Because you started going, Brian, and then you just stopped.
Did I really?
Yeah, we did a little back and forth about Debbie, but go on about that.
That's great. Geez, he keeps coming in and coming out. It's interfering with my mind. Boo-hoo.
Can you just
Brian,
ignore-
just focus on your show.
All right. So I was going to go further in with, The Wizard of Oz. It is much more dark and much more violent. The book is, anyway, than the movie. Now, I've never seen Return to Oz. I don't know if Mandy, have you seen the movie Return to Oz?
No,
Yeah.
because
How
there
about-
was no need for any of that. Now, all of that stuff was Hollywood extra to make money, and there was no need for it when the story was pretty much completed.
How about
God
the
is
Wiz?
muting his mic and taking a shower. He'll be
Have you-
touching his genitals while listening, just so you
Gross.
know.
Gross and triple gross.
Yes, you come
Please
on.
get all the
You
scabies
bring
off.
such purpose to the show, Howard.
God doesn't shower. Relax.
God is showering now.
You should smell. And
No,
smell
it's just
all.
like Dennis.
I'll
It's just
be-
like Dennis
I'll be
with the need
smelling-
of attention.
I'll be smelling
Anyways,
something,
Brian,
but it won't
continue,
be what you
Brian.
think.
All right.
Brian,
Continue your
Brian
your
Raz-
show,
throw-
Brian.
I was going to throw in
I guess
the
we'll.
Wiz. Brian, the Wiz. Don't forget that.
Brian's a mess.
There we go.
The Wiz. You've seen The Wiz?
The Wiz.
I saw it in the movie
You
theater.
have you really you watched it in the movie
Yeah,
theater?
let's
Oh, yeah.
let's review Jesus Christ Superstar. In fact, that's what God wants. Jesus Christ Superstar. Start reviewing, fat man.
I didn't like it. It wasn't a good movie. I found it corny.
No, you didn't like Rent either, did you?
No, I did not.
What about hair?
I
How
like.
about urine? How about urine town?
Hairspray. It was hairspray, JP.
I saw
Hair.
God saw Urinetown in the theater.
Brian, what favorite John Water movies do you like? Like, which one's your favorite?
If I was going,
Ugh.
if I was going to pick my favorite, it would
It's
be
John Waters, not John Water.
Whatever, dude. Just
I
give
said
us.
I
I said
named
John
him.
Waters.
No, you didn't.
His
You
name
said
is John
John-
Waters. I said
You
John
said
Waters.
John
if you
Water.
go if you
Said
go
John
back and
Water.
re-listen,
Play
you
back
could
the
hear
tape.
it. Play
Play
it. You
back
can
the
play it
tape.
back.
She said Abe.
Anyways,
John
Brian.
Abe
John
Brian,
Water,
I'm
you
talking
said.
to you, Brian. Brian, which
Abe-
one is the movies is your favorite?
Female troubles. Abe Lipton. Okay, I'm sorry. I just had to say that. Yeah, Female Troubles is my favorite John Waters films. It has some very
Divine.
raunchy and hysterical moments that make me laugh hysterically. And let's not put Howard back on.
That's right. You did put post that picture of what was her name? Aunt Ida or Ida, I think it was. That Edith Macy.
God, what is her name now? God,
You posted her before. That Edith
Edith Massey.
yeah, you posted her picture before.
Is her name Edith Massey? I forget.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is. You're right. You're correct.
Yeah, it's Massey.
I remember she said, but is her first name Edith?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, Brian.
You know what? My mind is going as I grow
Your
old.
mind is fine. You said her name right. Go on.
There we go. Now we can go. I guess we can go into the movie The Godfather, which is a great film, but from my understanding, is this something funny? From my understanding,
Well, okay, so I only saw the second one where it's like the horse head, right?
That's the first-
Or was it the first one? I don't know. I never really watched it. It used to play all the time when I was a kid, and I was a young child when it was a thing, and so I never understood it, and I never watched it. But when I watched the porno, The Goddaughter, I didn't understand it even then. And what they were doing in that porno was dumbing it down so badly that for someone who's never seen it, it would help you understand it. And I still didn't get it. But yeah, that's the only way I even know anything of The Godfather is because of that porno.
well, I mean, The Godfather is basically about Don Corleone, the head of the five families, and
Oh, it's a Corleone.
Mamma mia. And they want him to go into narcotics. He does not want to do it. And they make an attempt on his life. And his son, who doesn't want to get into the life, ends up getting into the life and becoming, the head Don because he sees things from his perspective. I enjoyed the film, and the film is enjoyable. I don't know how realistic it is because I've heard people who are in the mafia said that the mafia never dealt in drugs. but it's still a great film about power and power struggle and the like.
Wow.
Uh,
That's
And
a-
by the way, a large portion of the book is about a woman getting her clitoris smaller. Just
Yeah, it's about that's pretty much how the movie I watched was about.
they probably did the book.
it's my goal in life.
But
All right. What else do we got? Do we cover Electric Horseman? What is that called?
Electric Horseman, that film was you know what, my dad saw that and he said, I remember my dad took me to see that and he said it was a piece, he said,
Oh.
what a piece of crap.
That was
And
a piece
I
of crap.
remember there was a poster of Electric Horseman.
No, Electric Cowboy. Sorry. Right?
It was Electric Horseman,
That
Schnooky
was.
Pups.
My bad.
It was with
Schnicky.
Robert Redford and Jane Fonda.
And Jane Fonda, yeah.
And there was a poster of him picking her up and holding her upside down. And he wrote on the thing, "This movie sucks."
Mandy, have you ever ridden a mechanical bull or horse?
What does that have to do with Brian? See, this is the thing, Brian.
Okay, 'cause we're
You
gonna go
put
into-
your show back on track. Put your show back on track.
That's the question.
Put your show back on track, Brian.
Not too far off.
Have I was born and raised in Texas.
Okay.
Did you ever see Urban Cowboy?
Oh, I love
Yes.
Urban Cowboy. I love Urban Cowboy. Listen, my sister and I had said this, is that whenever somebody calls you a Pam, it's like, you know, right then and there you fucked up. That's an Urban Cowboy thing. I mean, ask Debbie. Even Debbie would be like, oh God, I know, it's Pam.
But you've
Ew."
never seen an officer and a gentleman.
Yes, I have.
Oh,
With Nicolas Cage?
no.
No.
Oh,
And-
Here,
no,
this
then
is
I haven't.
a nice try.
I have my okay,
Wait,
do
what
we
movie
all-
was he in? That was Officer and a Gentleman.
I have my inside
None.
scoop of
Or no, it's not Nicolas Cage. It's the guy with the gerbil.
Richard Gere.
What's his name? Yes. Okay, so listen, I have seen it, and by have seen it, I was doing laundry and it played in the background.
Good movie.
I have actually I have I'm gonna go into someday. I'm gonna go into the films I have kind of an inside scoop on. I actually knew the guy who edited the film of Officer and the Gentleman, and the original film was over 3 hours long. And they completely cut the part when he was a child. I was in the Philippines or Thailand, but they completely cut that portion out of the film.
It's still a long movie.
It is, but it was longer. The original cut was far longer, and I don't know if that comes from an original book. And another film that is complete that went away from the. Did you ever see the movie HUD, Joey?
Gosh,
With
sounds
Paul
familiar.
Newman?
That may have been a background movie I saw, but didn't really focus on.
Well, in the book, she was the character played by Patricia Ireland was actually a mixed. She was part black and part white, and in the movie, HUD doesn't fail in raping her. He actually succeeds. But I mean, it's just
Finally.
and they could back
It wouldn't have made it to the Oscars if it didn't have a rape.
not in 1962. It could not have been made. I think that the code was still very handily there. And I don't know if we got off of track on anything.
Paul Newman is HUD, the man with the barbed wire soul.
Yes.
Hud Binion.
HUD
And that's what he'll do. He'll ban you.
ban you. You're banned. All right.
Get out.
Oh, like I haven't heard that before. Come at me with something new.
Get out.
Get out. Mandy, have you seen The Exorcist?
I have actually.
You have not.
I have. I listen. I remember whenever I was like, "Oh, I've never seen that," and apparently I have.
Wow.
It was the movie that was playing when it was on in the background, and it's the one where she comes like down the stairs or whatever, and like she pisses and makes like a big like puddle of
Yeah.
piss, and then like she crawls backwards and stuff like that. I remember thinking like she crawls like a spider or some shit like that, and
That's
I remember thinking that's really weird, and like her head spins, and then it's the classic line of what she says about Jesus. So I have seen it. Was it scary? No.
What?
It was a terrible movie. There's nothing scary about it. If you
You can
believe in
still-
that stuff, then yeah, that's scary, but I don't believe in any of that.
It's kind of laughable, but when I was a kid, that movie, and I wasn't supposed to see it. I snuck it on. It was on the On channel. I don't know if you remember that cable. Do you remember the On
Wait.
channel, Mandy?
No. What is that? HBO? Before it was HBO? I don't know.
It was
Yeah,
pre-HBO. Yeah,
No. She would never. Yeah.
you had an option. You had Select TV or the On channel. Brian, which did you have?
Well, my family was a fight family, so they did Select TV. Select TV had more boxing.
The pay-per-view fights, right?
Yeah.
Hagler and Hearns and all those. good ones.
Yeah.
I remember that.
They're on.
Yeah, so whenever there was a fight, I'd have to go see it at someone else's house. You're right.
But I want to say that to me, there's a part that deals with the ego with the movie The Exorcist. I get something out of it a little bit, and my favorite part is the part when he's in Iraq. That for me is the richest part of The Exorcist. And I think we're going on too long. Anything before I end this show, or anything that perhaps I missed?
We have to do part 2 of this next week. Maybe we should do New Movie Thursdays again.
Maybe we should, and we can talk about movies perhaps that we've seen.
But
Anyway,
yeah, this is
I'm
just,
busy next week, so I can't do that. But
where-
I was gonna say your show just started.
yeah, it's kind of new.
Minus the hiccup of nonsense because people need Tenty, but if you remove that out, then Brian, you can actually focus and do something quite decent.
I know.
did you?
I mean, this
find
is actually really good, minus the Tenty part of like somebody coming in, sucking their thumb, needing the Tenty from Daddy-O. But you can always cut that out. You don't have to accept it when it comes in.
God,
Yeah,
take
yes,
umbrage with that.
Sometimes he comes in with good and decent information. Other times he comes in just to tell me about the broads he may or may not be banging, and it's like, who cares?
Well, I asked what her name was, what his name was.
And it was Curtis.
He said it's a she, and then he said her name is Russ.
Why
That's
did he?
the man's name.
Yeah, he should have said Curtis.
I mean, doesn't everybody know that those who actually have sex don't have to come on and tell everyone that they're having sex? Those are usually the ones that they're not doing it.
Angela, can you remind
If you
him?
are doing it, then you're out doing it. You're not talking about it because you're too busy doing it.
I've never, and the thing is, I've never cared about anyone's sex life except for mine. Me.
Brian, you have a wild sex life.
You do.
I know
It's
I
crazy.
do.
You have such a wild sex life.
You have a wild.
If people who are listening, the jealousy will definitely rise because if they only knew, then damn,
Shit,
Brian.
I'm jealous.
There's one guy I want to be very jealous of.
I'm jealous too. You're talking about.
All right. Let me call this show a day. It was
All right.
so fun. Meow meow. Like, subscribe, leave a comment down below.
Like it.
Walk against the woke.
We don't have enough subscribers, dude.
To subscribe, you morons.